years earlier, I was on the backside of a skiing mishap that had left me with a shattered leg that surgeons had reassembled with screws and metal pins. This shouldn't have hit me as hard as it did, but what can I say? For years I had wanted to run the New York City Marathon. I had dreamed of it. In some ways, I had counted on it. After my leg ended up on the wrong end of my unfortunate fall, I was told that my days of training for anything that put significant strain on the leg, much less running the marathon, were over. All this to say that in my own moment of spectacularly self-indulgent melodrama, when I met Emily, I'd just had my first taste of mortality, along with an overlarge serving of hunger to be something more than the man I was. Of course, Emily didn't know any of that. The day I met her, I was sitting in a conference room of the book publishing house, Caldecott Press, surrounded by the president, publisher, an editor, a lawyer, and Regal Bay's own consigliere, who scared even me, and I didn't scare easily. We were there about a sticky issue regarding an upcoming book the publisher had on its fall list, namely a book about Regal Bay and some of its allegedly questionable activities. Victor Harkin and I were there to make sure the book never saw the light of day. Rather than go the legal route from the onset, Victor wanted first to try and convince the publisher to see things our way. Just before we began the meeting, Emily blew into the room like she was immortal, her long blonde hair flowing behind her like a flag. She was delicate, not very tall, but somehow her presence filled the room. I had been half listening to Victor make small talk, but the minute I saw Emily, everything else fell away. Good news, bad news, depending on your point of view. I was nothing if not a connoisseur of women, and everything about Emily seemed a contradiction. She was as beautiful as any of the models I dated, her white blonde hair long and loose, her eyes like an indigo sea, but combined with that intensity of energy and color, she wore a simple cream dress that hit barely above her knees. Not blue to highlight her eyes, or short to show off her amazing legs, like adding a constant in algebra to offset an equation, though in math the point is to solve for x. Emily seemed impossible to solve. I was intrigued.
"Ah, Emily," the president said. "I was hoping you could join us."
Introductions were made, and I gathered that while Emily was relatively new to the company, she had already developed a reputation for problem-solving. That the president thought she could solve anything with Victor Harkin made me smile. Though when I think back on it now, I realize that despite the contradiction of her, or maybe because of it, everything in the room shifted the minute she blew through the door. When Victor gestured toward me and said, "This is—" I cut him off. "Sandy Portman," I offered with a wry smile. "Just another cog in the corporate machine." Victor looked at me as if I had lost my mind, which perhaps I had. In actuality, I was Alexander Sandy Vandermeer Regal Portman, a direct descendant of both the Vandermeer and Regal families, founders of Regal Bay, one of Wall Street's oldest and most prestigious investment firms. Whether it was Emily's counterbalanced elegance or the easy confidence of someone who felt no need to impress, I'm not sure. All I knew was that for the first time in my life, I didn't want someone to know who I really was. We started in on the issue, Victor doing his best to intimidate and threaten, the president looking like he was concerned he'd end up with a horse head in his bed. But the women in the room hardly paid attention to Victor. They eyed me surreptitiously, weighing their possibilities, assessing. At least all the women did except Emily, who didn't seem to notice me at all. No question, I wasn't used to disinterest, but it seemed more than that. Watching her, she seemed aware only of whoever was talking, as if she were listening in a way that most people never did. When every idea and possibility had been suggested, then discarded as not working for one or the other side, the president glanced over at her.
"Emily, what do you think?"
She considered for a second, then turned to Victor like some blue-eyed David doing battle with a Bronx-born Goliath. "I'm not sure I understand what the problem is. No question you have the resources to tie Caldecott up with lawsuit paperwork for months, if not longer, but eventually, whatever you're trying to hide is going to come out." She tisked at Victor like he was a schoolyard bully getting caught playing rough on the playground. I doubted Victor had ever been tisked at.